Welcome to Dakota College at Botno. This is the Fish and Wildlife Department, and today we are going to do a frog dissection. So what class of animals do frogs belong to? Amphibians. Very good, very good. So what's unique about amphibians?
They go through morphosis, like different stages of life cycle, like tadpole to...
Very good. So they have one stage of their life they spend in water. That's when the eggs get laid, the tadpoles come out in water, and the next stage of their life, the adult stage, they spend near water, but they spend a terrestrial life. In other words, while they're tadpoles, they have gills to breathe. And when they're frogs, when they grow, the term is metamorphosis. When they go through the process of metamorphosis, they become an adult frog or a toad. They have lungs at the time. Okay? So part of their lifetime they have gills, the rest of the time they have lungs as adults. Now, if you look at this frog, what frog is this? Like a bullfrog, right? When you're looking at this bullfrog, the skin is shiny and moist. Well, it's moist right now, but if you look at a frog or pick up a frog, it's also moist, right? Why is the skin moist? Because they're actually breathing through their skin. Their lung, unlike ours, is not as efficient. So that skin, and you can see that entire skin is membranous. There is blood vessel supplies directly to the skin, so they compensate for the lack of oxygen that they get through their lungs through using their skin. They get it from their skin. Okay. In other words, they breathe through their skins. Okay. Now, right by the head here, if you pick up your frog and turn it around, right here, and Blair, would you zoom in this camera right here, please? A little more, as far as it'll go.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Okay. Right here behind the eye, right here, on both sides, you have something called a tympanic membrane. That's their ears. In us, that tympanic membrane is inside our external acoustic canal. Okay, the hole in our ear that leads to the tympanic membrane. In frogs and other amphibians, it's exposed, even reptiles. You can see that tympanic membrane right there. That's where the sound vibrations hit and move the ossicles on the inside so that the frog can recognize any sound. So that's the tympanic membrane right there. You can see the eyes. If I pull open the eyes using my probe slightly, you'll see this leathery white membrane. My probe is right behind the membrane right now. Can you zoom in using that?
The memory card is full.
Memory card is
Yeah,
full.
I just got a notification of memory card's full.
Okay. Can you pause that? So that's the tympanic membrane. That's the eye. On top of the eye, you have this membrane right here. That is called a nictitating membrane. That membrane is a translucent, transparent almost membrane over the eye that they can close and open. Okay. Our nictitating membranes have degenerated and they have formed this pink called the canthus on both sides. You have medial canthus by the nose and then lateral canthus on the ends of your eyes. They still have the nictitating membrane. Okay. Now if you think about the skin is really loose. Let's open it up and see how we can see the muscles of the frog. You take your pair of scissors lift up gently right here and put a small incision. Okay, then you can cut down to the side. Be very careful not to push your scissors down. Just cut the skin for now. I want you to look at the muscles before you open them up completely. You can see how loose the skin is. If you think about our skin has connective tissue layer attaching it firmly with the muscles. Because their skin is highly vascular and they breathe through their skin, the skin is a little more loose. Okay, so I'm cutting all the way around, trying to take the skin off as best as I can. Because these are preserved in formaldehyde, we can even peel the skin like I'm doing right here, and you can see the vascular connections. All those are blood vessels. You see all those fine lines in there? They are all blood vessels. Okay, I'm peeling the skin off. You can cut it. Just make sure that right here there is some attachment you see right by the axillary region there. I just cut it gently with my scissors to release it. There you have it. So I've removed the skin. I can cut it so that it's out of my way. Underneath that, what you see are these muscles. Right there, muscles running this way and fascia tying them down that way. That's the six-pack of the frog that you are working on probably. You're working on your six-packs? That's your rectus abdominis muscle. Okay? So what we'll do, I'll cut a little bit more of the skin down here. Now I'll hold this part up slightly, and maybe you can see on this one, this part up slightly, and I'll put a small incision right there so that I can get my pair of scissors in. And again, I'll move my scissors in a way that I'm cutting away from the body cavity, and I'm gently exposing this body cavity like so. Okay, I'm cutting up until I reach the sternum. So frogs don't have actual ribs per se, but they have what's called several coracoids. Coracoid is a bony structure going laterally from the sternum. So from the sternum it's going that way and this way. Those are the coracoids, and in the center is the sternum. So when you feel your chest and you feel that hard portion of your chest, that's the middle piece where all the ribs are tied to. That's your sternum. Same for the frog right here. So I'll go past the sternum because it's mostly cartilaginous. I can cut through it. And then the first thing I'll do is I'll open it up and look at this membrane that I can see on the inside. You see that membrane? That membrane is the pericardium. It's right around the heart. That membrane right there. Okay? I'll leave that alone and I'll come down here. I'll cut to the side and kind of try to expose the abdomen. Try to expose the abdomen as much as I can. I can even cut this piece out for now. Okay, I cut that piece out. I'll do the same for the other side. And as you are opening it up, you see a lot of these leaf-like flappy things on the inside. You already have started seeing that. What they are fat bodies. They're exactly what they sound like. They are filled with fat. They're bodies of fat, therefore we call them fat bodies. How simple is that? So if you pull them out, and we need to remove them, we need to remove the fat bodies out so that we can reach in and take a look on the inside. The more the fat bodies, the better the frog is in a shape. The better shape the frog is in. Okay. These fat bodies pack the abdomen, and if there is an impact for some reason, these fat bodies protect from that impact. Okay. So I'll remove these fat bodies using my scissors, and then I'll come back to it. Okay. Okay, now let's see what all the different things we can see in here in this frame. So I'm putting my fingers and spreading the thoracic cavity out. So this is the thoracic cavity right here. That's the abdominal cavity. The largest thing you see in that abdominal cavity is this structure. There are multiple lobes that you see, 1, 2, 3, 4 lobes that you see. That's the liver. Okay. Most animals have about 10% of their body weight is their liver. It stores fat, it stores glycogen, it detoxifies the food that's coming in that you're eating, so it has lots of jobs. So that's your liver. If I lift the liver slightly, what you're seeing there, this worm-like structure right there, that's the stomach. Okay, that's the stomach right underneath it. And I'm lifting the liver, kind of pointing underneath it. I'm stretching this side out. And right underneath it, okay, here's a fat body that's in the way. Right underneath it, this sac-like structure you see, it's kind of greenish. That structure right there is the gallbladder. Liver makes bile, stores in the gallbladder. That gallbladder releases the bile that opens inside this structure right here called the duodenum. Okay, what does bile do? Exactly what your dish detergents do. They emulsify fat. So when fat is eaten, or any fat that's eaten, your bile makes a layer around it, and it helps digest that that enclosed, it's called micelle, and in that process emulsifies and helps digest fat. So that's your gallbladder, your liver, right there is your stomach. Okay, I'll turn it around, place it the right way. Let's look at some of the other structures now. Now right here, as I spread this out, you're looking at that membrane right here. That membrane right here is the pleural membrane. Okay, I'm tearing it up. That membrane is right around the lung and the heart, and you know adult frogs have lungs. Here is the heart. If you look closely, the heart has one big chamber down here. This chamber is the ventricle, and two smaller chambers up here. Those are the atria. So there's a right of the frog, atria, and a left of the frog, atrium. Okay, atrium singular, atria plural. So there's a right atrium and a left atrium and one ventricle. So how many chambers is that? 3, right? 3 chambers. So how many chambers do we have?
3.
Humans.
Just one.
In the heart. How many chambers of the heart do we have?
4.
4. So here, I want you to think a little here. From all over the body, deoxygenated blood comes to the right atrium. From the right atrium, it goes to the ventricle. So this is deoxygenated blood, and your right atrium left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lung and the skin in the frog. For you, only the lung. So that from the left atrium, that oxygenated blood will enter the ventricle. So it's mixing up. You're mixing oxygenated blood with non-oxygenated blood. Right? You're mixing Coke with ice. That ice will melt and become water. So here you're mixing up deoxygenated blood from the right and oxygenated blood from the left in the ventricle. So you're losing efficiency. In you have 4 chambers. Your deoxygenated blood are on the right side, up and down, atrium and ventricle, and oxygenated blood is on the left side, completely separate from the deoxygenated blood. That's why your body can perform at a higher metabolic rate than a frog, because your blood do not mix. In the frog, the blood mixes. The oxygenated blood from the left and the deoxygenated blood from the right mixes in the ventricle. Okay, so that's why a 4-chambered heart is more efficient than a 3-chambered heart that frogs have. In a fish, it's only 2-chambered, but they have a constant supply of water over their gills that's adding oxygen to it. So they can just keep going, I guess. Now let me lift this liver, and underneath there you can see this one, not so fluffy yet kind of light. You can feel it with your fingers. That's the left lung. On the other side, therefore, you'll have, again, you can see I'm kind of moving things over to show you the right lung. Okay, so right lung, left lung, and that's the heart. Now let's see what's in the body cavity here. You can still see some fat bodies right there. I'm trying to, using my probe, get rid of the fat bodies as much as I can. I'm trying to keep things intact. Now before I lose it, right here, that's the spleen. This large black substance, organ, right here, that's the spleen. Okay, now I'm reaching inside the body cavity, and these had been injected with latex, so you can see the red in the arteries. That represents blood. Okay. All right. Now, what do you think this animal is? Is it a male or a female? Okay, let me cut that tissue right here quick. Okay, I'm making some room here in the back. That dark structure right there in the back that you see, that's the kidney. There's one on each side and one right there. Okay, there's one right there. That's the right kidney, and then here is the left kidney. The kidney is behind the peritoneum. It's retroperitoneal. Now what I'm trying to fish for here is, I'm trying to show you some of the reproductive structures here. This is a young frog, and you can see that convoluted tubes on both sides. You see lots of convoluted tubes. Now frogs, they lay eggs, right? And they have ovaries in females and testes in males, same as humans do. Now for frogs, they lay their eggs outside the body. for humans, we as fetuses grow inside the uterus. So for frogs, we need a lot of these are called oviducts, and the ovary is right there. That's what I was fishing for. The ovary is right there. So from the ovary, eggs are released. When this frog has lots of eggs in its ovary, it will fill up the entire cavity. You'll see, and some of you may already have seen when you opened it up, this sac full of eggs, kind of black and white eggs. Any of you have a female full of eggs? No.
I think I have a female, it's not full.
Okay. So some of you may get such a frog with the ovary full of eggs, and these are the oviducts. So once those eggs are released from the ovary, it goes into the oviduct and then released to the outside through that tube, and they have only one opening, the cloaca, to the outside. Okay. So this is a female, and those are the reproductive structures. That's the oviduct and the ovary. Same for this side as well. If I can find a frog which has lots of eggs in it, I'll add to this video later on. Okay. Now let's look up here. Right there, that was the stomach. That stomach ends up into something called this duodenum right here. Okay. Now, associated with that stomach or with the duodenum is a leaf-like gland, and I'm trying to fish for it quick here. That gland right here, this leaf-like structure that you see, is the pancreas. Right there, it's an elongated leaf-like structure. That pancreas is releasing all the enzymes inside the digestive tract, inside the duodenum, for the food to get digested. So right there, that's the pancreas, okay, associated with the duodenum right there. That's the duodenum. And then you have small intestines, small intestine in terms of diameter, and large intestine again in terms of diameter. Oops, got caught here. In terms of diameter, so that's your large intestine that goes into the rectum, and then rectum exits through the anus to the cloaca, in this case, to the outside. Now if I pull this, you can see it's not really coming loose. It's kind of loose and hanging there, but it's not really coming loose. The reason for that is that membranous structure in there. You see some blood vessels in there as well, called your mesentery. Okay, that mesentery holds it together. Now I'm going to tug on it and open it up as much as I can. I may break it in the process, and you may do the same, but look at the length of it. The length of it is, compared to the body size of the frog, is quite long. In humans, this small intestine is about 6 meters long. Okay, I'll just cut that part, otherwise you know what comes out of the intestines, right? Feces. So don't try not to puncture it. Alright, so now I have isolated. I'll cut a little bit of the peritoneum here, and I'll show it to you what I just did. And then I'm breaking the mesentery. So now you can see this really long, small initial part of it is small intestine, and then latter part of it is large intestine, that eventually exits through the cloaca. Okay. That stomach was connected with the esophagus. Esophagus brings the food from the mouth down towards the GI tract, or into the GI tract. Okay, let me pause quick here. Okay, we found a male. So let's see how males look like. Right here, that is the spleen. Right here is the spleen. Okay, right behind the spleen on this left side, you see this kind of kidney bean shaped structure. That is the left testicle. And on the other side, you have right there, as I move the gut kind of out of the way, that right there is the right testicle. Okay, these are fairly big, so this looks like an adult. Again, they may change size during the breeding season. These get bigger, but they are right there. So that bean-shaped structure is the testes. Okay. All right. So that is all I have for you. If you have any questions, you can send them to me via your teachers, and I would be very happy to answer them. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.